In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to crochet this Noughts Hearts Trim. It uses my breakaway crochet techniques, which makes it possible to work these small motifs continuously and joined as you go. The secret for doing this is knowing how to make floating rings. So if you don't know how to make floating rings, then please watch the introductory video. You'll find the link for that in the description. You'll also find a link for the written pattern there as well. So before we begin, notice that this trim is made up of two different types of motifs. We've got our little knots and our hearts. And as is typical with the Breakaway Crochet Method, we will be working these in rows. So remember, we have two special types of rows. We have a foundation row, which establishes the beginning of the motifs, and a return row, which finishes them off. So for the first foundation row, this is what we will be working, these sort of half motifs and the bumps of the hearts. So I'll just show you how to get that going. To begin, we start with a floating single crochet. That is, we do a yarn over, pinch, yarn over, pinch, yarn over, pull through two, which makes the floating ring. Now let's make the single crochet by pulling through the final two loops. So remember, we've done a floating ring and made the first single crochet of the round all in one hit. Continue with another single crochet for just this very first little knot, which gets us a quarter of the way around. Now it's time to start a heart. And we start the heart with a floating treble. That is 2 yarn overs, and then make the floating ring. The yarn over, pinch, yarn over, pinch, yarn over, pull through the 2 pinched loops. So there's our floating ring made. Now let's make the treble by going yarn over 2, or pull through 2, sorry, until we get to the end. So there's our first treble and floating ring of the next motif. We continue with this heart with 2 more trebles, and just remember, we're always working into the floating ring for each little motif in this project. So that was 1 treble, and here's the second. Continue with a double crochet, chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1, double crochet, and end with 3 trebles. So that's the first 2 made, and here, that's how it looks. That's where we are in the context of the whole project here. So as you can see now, it's a matter of making another knot and another heart. So the only difference is this second knot, again beginning with a floating single crochet. This time we put 3 single crochets to get us halfway around. So that's how we will do the rest of the knots in this foundation row. And the next heart we do just like we've done this one here, so I don't think I need to go through that again. So from now on, just continue in this pattern, and again refer to the written pattern if you forget what to do. Just carry on until you get to the length that you want. And for this project, make sure you end with a heart. So there, I think I've done enough for this demonstration. And again, just to provide some context, this is our first foundation row where we've worked half of those motifs to the length we want and ended with a heart. So now we're ready for the first return row where we give each heart its pointy part and we finish each knot. And we continue till we get to the beginning of this row. And there's nothing too groundbreaking here. I'm just going to be doing pretty traditional stitches again, all into the floating ring. So the first stitch of the return row is another treble in the floating ring, 3 double crochet, chain 1, 2 treble together. That gives the little pointy bit of the heart. Chain 1, 3 double crochet. Again, if things get a little bit crowded, just keep shoving things along. They will all fit. And we end with a treble. And those are all the stitches to the heart, but we need to close this gap up. So to do that, we do our slip stitch between the heart and the next little knot motif. I've just slip stitched around, and now I move on to the knot, and in that floating ring I put 4 single crochet to finish off the other half, and again to close that knot off there's another slip stitch between it and the next heart. So that's the pattern, and again just continue that until you get back to the beginning of the row. And now that I'm back to the very first knot, I should say that this one is different because it only has 2 single crochets, because now we've got to go upstairs, so we only go a quarter of the way around so that we can work the next motif on the next row. So again, here we are. We've done that first row of motifs, the foundation row and the return row, and now we're going to do another foundation row, but this time we're doing the hearts the other way around. So very similar, but we're just starting with the point. And notice we also have to join, we also have to join the new motifs to the old, so I'll go over that. So to begin the second foundation row, we start with a floating treble, which you get as kind of half of the point of that heart. Chain 1, 3 double crochet, and 1 more treble. So as you can see, we've just worked, so to speak, a quarter of the way around that first heart. Which is just this little portion here. Now let's begin that next knot, again with a floating single crochet, And since we're connecting, we only put one more single crochet in there, and we've got to connect. Since it's a knot, it's got to go to the point of a heart. So let's find that stitch that looks like it's at the point. Put the hook in. Let's make everything go to the left and draw through everything there to make my sort of breakaway slip stitch. So that's connected the knot to the heart. Let's finish the other half of the knot with 2 more single crochets. So we're halfway around the knot, and that's our first join. Now begin the next heart again with a floating treble, 3 double crochet, chain 1, and before we make the treble 2 together, this is the point where we join to a knot. Okay, so again, let's skip that first stitch there and go into that one there at the hook. Shove everything to the left. Draw through all those loops, and there, that's joined the tip of the heart to the knot. Now it's time for the treble 2 together. Chain 1, 3 double crochet, and a treble. Which gets us halfway around the pointy end of our heart. So there we are. That's the basis for our foundation row. Just continue repeating that and that across until you get to the end. And now that I'm at the end, let's now do the second return row, which means 4 single crochets in that last little knot there. I guess I should say the first knot of the row. Again, slip stitch between. And now we have the bumps of the next heart, which should sound very familiar, with 3 trebles, double crochet, chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1, double crochet, and the last 3 trebles. And again, we need to close that heart off with a slip stitch between the heart and the little knot that comes next, and so on. That's pretty straightforward. So continue in that way until you get to the beginning of the row. So just finishing the last bump on the last heart of the row. And as you also remember, when we get to the end of our project, we always have incomplete motifs on the left edge. So let's finish this little heart here and this little knot down at the end. Again, pretty straightforward, with another treble in the heart and the 3 double crochets, chain 1, treble, and this is the other half of what would have been a treble 2 together. So that's completed that heart. So time to slip stitch around the connecting threads, and we we've only done 4 single crochets in the final knot, so let's do the last 4. And since it's the last one, we slip stitch into the beginning, and that finishes off our trim. So I hope that helped explain some things that were not clear in the written pattern. Please follow me on Instagram and subscribe on YouTube. I've got some more ideas for using this trim in other projects. So again, it can be a standalone sort of item that can be appliqued onto something else. It could be a border on a, say, a blanket or a placemat. And you know, sky's the limit. I'll let you come up with some things that are useful to you. I look forward to seeing anything you make. Thanks for watching, and see you again soon.